An outpouring of support for the Federal Express driver killed in Jackson Wednesday from the community he served. As Rosalind Anderson reports, Robert Williams was not just a delivery man to residents of the Reunion community. He brought joy with every package.
I got the coolest FedEx, man.
I miss him already.
Trey Heron posted this video of Federal Express delivery driver Robert Williams in January to share with the Reunion neighborhood the music and happiness he dropped off at each stop.
He was just such a good dude, and to have this happen, it's really hit me hard the last couple of days, and I've really been struggling to get past it.
Jackson police say the 39-year-old was shot and killed in his personal truck on Booker T. Washington Street Wednesday night. Horrifying news for the Madison community, now wanting to show his family the love he showed them.
We're 23 hours in, $32,000.
Michael Waylett and Brent Brown are raising money through GoFundMe to support Williams' wife and 9 children.
I think the impact that Mr. Williams made in our neighborhood is demonstrated by the outpouring of support and the overwhelming amount of money that we've already raised.
Every single day, Robert passed by my house and would blow the horn, wave. Even if I didn't have a package, he'd stop, talk to people, and that's throughout our neighborhood.
The goal is $50,000 for the beloved driver who delivered smiles to the faces of all he met. Meanwhile, police say no suspects have been identified.
He was just a very, very special guy that left an unbelievable legacy.
In Madison, Rosalind Anderson, 3 on your side.
And you can find a link to the GoFundMe account in this story at WLBT.com. It has now raised more than $48,000. School starts in just days, and this weekend, parents are getting a break on the cost of back-to-school necessities. As Rosalind Anderson reports, stores are welcoming an uptick in shoppers for the tax-free weekend.
We want to go up to H&M right now to go look for those.
LaShonda Kidd and her daughter Shamaya are shopping the sales tax holiday weekend at North Park Mall to get ready for the 8th graders' return to Madison Middle School.
Graphic t-shirts, shoes, jeans, everything.
Shamaya has a list.
A lot of the stores have some extra sales that are going on at this particular time. We are big shoppers anyway, so we love to shop, so it's best to take advantage of all the sales that we can get with all the bargain.
Friday through Saturday midnight, shoppers won't pay the 7% sales tax on clothing, footwear, or school supplies if the sales price of a single item is less than $100. Accessories like jewelry, handbags, umbrellas, wallets, and similar items do not qualify for the sales tax holiday.
That little bit of money can be stretched a long way.
Tammy Walker and her 14-year-old granddaughter, Mary Lynn Biffle, are shopping for school clothes.
I think it's great for all the parents and grandparents. The money's been short this year due to the COVID, and anything's going to help, all of it's going to help everybody out.
Mall officials say the sales tax holiday weekend is top 5 in mall traffic for the year.
The sales tax weekend does push more people out to the center. We see anywhere from a 30 to 40% increase in traffic. If you really take the Friday and the Saturday and combine them together, it gets close to our traffic we see on Black Friday.
Go to our website, WLBT.com, for a list of eligible sales tax holiday items. In Ridgeland, Rosalind Anderson, 3 on your side.
A South Jackson woman says she is being evicted after a drive-by shooting at her home. Cynthia Wilder was sleeping inside her home on June 15th when shots were fired into her Valley Park subdivision home. She says police have not followed up. The mother of 4 found 8 shell casings in the house. Shots were fired through her front windows, striking her refrigerator and the wall of her son's room. No one was injured. The next day, the 40-year-old says office management told her to leave. Wilder does not believe she should be forced from her home.
Told me to get out within 30 days. I have the papers here and I didn't do anything, so I didn't leave, so they end up summoning me through the courts. And the judge continued it.
We are waiting for comment from property owner Weston Associates of Ridgeland.
The capital city's mayor is taking a strong stance in the fight against COVID. Mayor Shokwan Lumumba today announcing an order directed at city workers. His executive order requires city employees to provide proof of vaccination by the end of the month, August 31st. Rising Delta variant cases in Hinds County prompted Lumumba to issue this order. Unvaccinated workers will also be required to wear masks at all times while interacting with coworkers and the public. Now, those who do not comply will be required to undergo weekly testing at their own expense. They must also wear a face covering at all times when at work. Now, here's one employee's reaction.
It's better safe than sorry, so you might as well go and get your vaccine and just go and get it over with. So I think it's a great idea for the mayor to be doing that. I really do, because I'm fully vaccinated myself.
That executive order begins Monday, August 16th. Mayor Lumumba plans to address the media about that new order tomorrow.
Bond issue funding is making renovations to schools throughout the Jackson Public School District. Those improvements were approved by voters back in 2018. Rosalind Anderson tells us what parents and students can expect to see.
Callaway High School is one of 7 JPS high schools that are having work done. Work is also happening at elementary schools in the district.
Van Winkle Elementary is among the schools in the district getting a facelift with funding from the $65 million bond issue. Classrooms and learning patios are repainted with added lighting. Carpeting has been removed and replaced with tile. Renovations were also made to the library. They are changes Kimberly Williams likes to see. She voted for the bond issue in 2018 to improve conditions for her daughter Justice.
They're doing a good job. I like how the school has progressed, how it's looking, how the teacher has doing more interactive with the kids. They doing more since the pandemic has calmed down a little bit.
A fresh new look will welcome students for the 2021-2022 school year.
Kids are excited. They are, COVID drained and quarantine drained. They want that physical presence of a teacher. They love the new bright colors we've been able to paint the walls with. We think that all these improvements are going to help in the fall when we become full in person.
Van Winkle received $373,000 for the improvements.
Renovations are scheduled to be completed throughout the district by May 2022. In Jackson, Rosalind Anderson, 3 on your side.
Researchers estimate that 30 to 40 million Americans are at risk of eviction. COVID-19 increased the odds for those already struggling to pay their rent. Rosalind Anderson tells us it's the subject of an exhibit at JSU, and the university is offering programs to offset the plight captured in the images on display.
They sent the notice, said they were not renewing any leases after August 4th, so I took that as an eviction notice.
Eddie Brown is days away from leaving his vintage apartment. He is among the 2.3 million Americans who face eviction each year. Stories like his are depicted in the traveling exhibit Evicted, currently on display at Jackson State University. It examines the forced removal of families from their homes through non-payment due to job loss or other plans by the owner. The pandemic has amplified the eviction problem among the low-income and minorities.
I'm really having a hard time, pandemic just got over and I've been working through the whole thing, but it's kind of crazy how I have to pay just to live here and then find me somewhere else to go.
Upwards of 50% of Mississippi renters may face eviction this year due to the pandemic itself. That's a staggering number.
Margaret Walker Alexander Center Director Dr. Robert Luckett says the pandemic has greatly impacted children who lost the safe space of school during virtual learning.
The devastation of eviction on top of that is going to create a cycle of poverty for that child that will be incredibly difficult to escape over that person's lifetime.
2016 data used in the exhibit documented nearly 35,000 evictions in Mississippi, cases that often led to an increase in the homeless population. In Jackson, Rosalind Anderson, 3 on your side.
2020 will be remembered as a year of loss by many, but in some instances, loss gave life. As Rosalind Anderson reports, the Mississippi Organ Recovery Agency saw record donations, a rebirth of sorts, and improved quality of life for nearly 800 Mississippians.
God gave me another chance at life.
Diagnosed with congestive heart failure, Angel Meeks waited 3 years on the transplant list until receiving the life-saving gift in January 2020.
December 2019, I told my mama for Christmas I didn't want nobody to give me nothing for Christmas. All I wanted was God to do was bless me with a heart. In January, he did just that.
The Canton resident's heart was one of 98 transplants in 2020, a record year of donations for Mora during the outbreak.
In the middle of all this pandemic, we hit 1 million people in the donor registry.
Mora CEO Kevin Stumps says families stepped up, giving organs, tissues, and eyes that allowed others to live and have brighter futures.
It was amazing to see the great people of the state of Mississippi saying, you know, this is a horrible time we're going through. If our loved one can give somebody a ray of hope, let's do it.
The history-making donations resulted in 284 life-saving organ transplants. Meek's donor was a 39-year-old wife and mother from Little Rock, Arkansas, named Brandy.
I love Brandy's family. Her mom always checks on me, and we text each other, and my heart goes out to them, and the beat goes on. And like I told her and her family, I'm going to take care of Brandy's heart.
What better thing for you to do as your last act on this earth than to save somebody else's life?
In Flowood, Roslyn Anderson, 3 on your side.
A garden grown from grief now brings joy to residents and children in Belhaven.
Yeah, Jackson Ryder transformed a parking lot into what is now a place of beauty which shares a love of earth and nature with the community. 3 on your side's Rosalind Anderson takes us there.
It is like finding an oasis in the desert.
Jesse Yancey created this oasis in 2008 after the devastating loss of his sister sent him spiraling.
Cindy had always wanted a garden, but she never lived in a place where she could have one. So I started a garden. I knew I had to get up and do something. So what I did was I picked up a shovel. I saw this corner over here.
The 63-year-old started at the corner of Peachtree Street and Poplar Boulevard, planting a variety of flowers, plants, and vegetables on a space donated by Nejum Properties. The garden has grown to cover nearly a third of a football field.
When people walk by, they can enjoy what they see over here.
Neighbors like twins Adriana and Brianna Wong were drawn to the garden.
My mom told me about it, and I just came here one day, and I was really impressed on what I saw, and I just really wanted to be here all the time.
They're here every Sunday, planting and tending their favorites, tomatoes and cucumbers.
When I see how much the garden has grown, it makes me feel proud of all the hard work we've done, because it starts from one tiny little seedling to a huge plant.
The garden is now a fixture in the neighborhood, a gift to those passing by and for the future.
It's important for kids to know where their food comes from, and I think it's important for them to know how to grow it. This is a great place for biology.
Yancey is gearing up for Bright Lights Belhaven Nights, when 8,000 lights will be strung in the garden. He wants you to stop by and visit. In Jackson, Rosalind Anderson, 3 on your side.
Underway, some parents of special needs children are scrambling to find classes for their children. One Jackson school that catered to children with disabilities will not be opening its doors this fall. Rosalind Anderson has the very latest on that. Ross?
Parents say New Summit School was a beacon of light for their special needs children, but because owners were indicted, Zach and Nancy New, they now have few education options.
Reached out to them, which was on yesterday, and they said the school was closed for the fall.
Angela Gray planned to send her autistic son to New Summit School after he stayed home last year during the pandemic. She heard rumors from parents that the school was closing. The 49-year-old says she repeatedly called the school and could get no answers until Wednesday.
It's just hard for kids and parents, rather, to find placement for kids that are on the autism spectrum. That's not expensive. We have nowhere to send our children.
New Summit has not responded to requests for comment on its status and closure. New Learning Resources operated the school. Attorney Matthew Thompson represented a group of parents who filed for the appointment of a custodian through the Hinds County Chancery Court to keep the school opened. Thompson says the assets of New Learning Resources, run by Nancy and Zach New, were frozen when the mother and son were indicted on fraud claims. The custodian found that there wasn't enough money available to pay teachers and staff.
That one incident, look how many lives have been changed.
Meanwhile, Gray says private schools are expensive and pleads with the state to provide more resources for special needs students in public schools.
Train teachers to teach kids on the autism spectrum. So we have other options besides the private sector.
The State Department of Education says it helps local schools and districts provide effective educational programs to students with disabilities who need special education and related resources. In Jackson, Rosalind Anderson, 3 on your side.
Victims of human trafficking can be trapped by predators and sold for sex for decades. Law enforcement reports that the crime is growing in this state. But now there is even more help for victims who are rescued from this life of terror. 3 on your side's Rosalind Anderson has the latest.
This is a look inside the tower, a safe haven for human trafficking victims. The Center for Violence Prevention operates the facility that now can house up to 12 victims and their children at an undisclosed location in Pearl. Thursday, the expansion was celebrated by those who helped make it happen. Officials say the most vulnerable are children in foster care and runaways.
A lot of the ones that we're working with are 30 years old or 40 years old, and they've been in the life since they were children. So they have a long time recovery because they've been victimized for so many years.
It's horrific. This is a horrific issue.
Attorney General Lynn Fitch says Mississippi has had 200 cases over the past couple of years. 20 victims have been rescued in the last few weeks.
It's happening where family members, they're trafficking their daughters, and it's usually for drugs. Usually drugs are a huge component of this.
House Speaker Philip Gunn says the legislature passed 2 bills to give law enforcement the tools needed to fight the state's rising human trafficking problem.
I'm afraid many people don't understand just what a real threat that is to our state. And over the last many years, we've come to realize just how active human trafficking is in Mississippi.
The tower opened in 2017. This year, the program has assisted more than 150 victims. In Pearl, Rosalind Anderson, 3 on your side.
3 on your side. WLBT News at 6 starts now.
More gun violence at the convenience store where Murrah High School graduate lost her life. A 15-year-old and an 18-year-old shot at the Texaco on Medgar Evers Boulevard early this morning. The escalating violence is disturbing to residents who live nearby. 3 on your side's Rosalind Anderson reports.
It's awful, and it is a disgrace.
Dorothy Mitchell lives across the street from the Medgar Evers Texaco, where Jackson police say 2 teenagers were shot early Monday. The 67-year-old resides in an elderly housing complex and says she and other residents live in fear.
This morning, approximately 3:42, I heard gunshots. I immediately hit the floor because it was so close. I didn't know where the gunfire was coming from, and so I just began to pray.
According to investigators, a 15-year-old was shot once at the store by unknown suspects. An 18-year-old was also shot twice while sitting inside a vehicle at the store. He underwent surgery for life-threatening injuries. June 1st, Kennedy Hobbs was fatally shot the night of her graduation from Murrah High School. She was sitting inside her vehicle. Residents like Mitchell want guns out of the hands of youth, less conflict, and more parental supervision.
If there was more prayer in the home, in the community, if we would come together as one people, one voice, things would be better.
No other details about the shootings were provided. In Jackson, Rosalind Anderson, 3 on your side.
3 on your side. WLBT News at 6 starts now.
A restaurant brawl in Flowood is caught on camera. An evening out turned to chaos for patrons at Buffalo Wild Wings this weekend. Rosalind Anderson with the latest.
We were just there to watch the fight on TV, and we got to see like 3 more.
Kylie Edwards and 2 friends went to Buffalo Wild Wings in Flowood Saturday night to watch the UFC fight. But the action moved from the TV screen to the dining area when an all-out brawl erupted.
My friend looked at me and he was like, hey, those people are about to start fighting. I didn't know what he was talking about. I thought he was talking about the TV. And then this guy punches this other guy, and he goes to get the manager, And then a few minutes later, these girls start fighting, so that's when I started videoing.
It was around 11 o'clock when fists started flying. Chairs were overturned. Edwards says 3 fights broke out in the chaos.
It was like right in front of us, like they started fighting, like we had to get up from our table and like kind of scoot over a little bit. It's unexpected. I mean, we thought it was pretty funny.
Edwards posted the brawl on social media. The 19-year-old says Flowood Police, the fire department, and an ambulance arrived at the scene. Flowood Police charged Robert Guillory and James Nichols with public drunk and disobeying a police officer. Lacey Nichols, Ricky Blaylock, and Jeffrey Miller were charged with disturbance in a public place. I also reached out to the Buffalo Wild Wings ownership for comment and am awaiting a response. Edwards was not injured and says the fights won't deter her from returning to the restaurant.
It's kind of crazy in there. It was unexpected. I didn't think that was going to happen.
In Flowood, Rosalind Anderson, 3 on your side.
Retailers to help prevent bombings. Today, a joint effort between Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security, or CISA, and the FBI launching a nationwide program to monitor the purchase of common bomb-making components. 3 on your side's Rosalind Anderson has the latest on this.
What you have here in front of you are bomb-making materials that are readily available.
These common household chemicals and items may sit on your shelves, but federal authorities warn that they can be used to make bombs. That was the case in December in Nashville, where infrastructure security officials say the bomber who died stockpiled chemicals to create the explosives.
They created a lot of material damage to an important critical infrastructure communications node operated by a telephone company. It impacted E911 systems for a period of time, and is still under investigation.
CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, and the FBI kicked off Operation Flashpoint in Clinton. It is a public bomb awareness program. The initiative alerts retailers like Revel Ace Hardware to be aware of suspicious purchases of products from drain cleaner and acid to pipes and nails, items that can be used to produce bombs.
There are products here that could be used as precursors for people who have nefarious ideas of making bombs and different things like that we didn't realize, and we want to be aware about that in case there's someone that's buying an unusual amount of something that we should know so that we can notify them and possibly prevent a tragedy happening.
The 90-day pilot program is the start of a national program. Officials say last year there were more than 2,000 bomb threats like package and device-related incidents in the U.S. In Clinton, Rosalind Anderson, 3 on your side.
A sharp